Sight 2. Penelope is lazy. Dougal was in a state. I'm in a state. May one ask why? Said Brian. And Dougal explained that Florence had knitted him a kilt and he'd lost it. It'll look so ungrateful not to have it on. Say it's in the wash. I suppose we are going to be treated to a lot of stupid suggestions. I'll trouble you to try and be constructive, if possible. I am constructive. No, you're not. You're about as constructive as an atom bomb, and you look a bit like one, too. Meanwhile, Florence waited. Waiting for me, said Zebedee. Am I late? Hey, not at all, said Florence. Oh, anyway, only a little. Florence called to Dougal. Hello, said Dougal. Isn't it a lovely day? Yes, lovely. Much too hot to have anything extra on. Like a kilt, said Brian. What did you say, Brian? Said Florence. Nothing, he said. Nothing. Don't listen to him. No, I didn't say anything. Yes, you did, said Florence. Did I? Well, I can't remember, said Brian. I'll pulverize that snail before I'm through. Anyone want a flower? I don't think I said anything, said Brian. Now, what is going on? Said Florence. Nothing. You wait till I get you home. Brian retreated into his shell. Where's your kilt? He said in a muffled voice. Oh, that mollusk. I don't think I said anything, said Brian, laughing. Florence was bewildered. He's dotty. Touch of the sun, said Dougal. The Dougals are coming, hurrah, hurrah. What did I tell you? Quite dotty. I wish I knew what was going on, said Florence. Knitted any good kilts lately? They came across a strange scene. A train caught in a spider's web, not something you see every day. Now, get out, you great monster, said Penelope, the spider. What? I recognize that. It was a piece of his kilt. Who's responsible for this? Heads will roll, the claymores will be brandished, madam. I require an answer. Did you unpick my kilt, yes or no? Yes, I did. Then I'll trouble you to re-knit it. But it's got a train in it, and knitting is difficult enough without having a train sitting on your needles, if you know what I mean. It's very naughty of you, said Florence. Naughty? It was the act of a vandal. Look at me, black watch tartan, like the Battle of Bannockburn, which we won incidentally. Bravo, Dougal, said Florence. I'm exhausted, said Penelope. Well, get this train out anyway, said Dougal. Penelope decided to make amends by giving Florence a bow for her hair. Thank you, said Florence. That's all very well, but what about my kilt? It's hung up here like spaghetti, and it's got a train on it. Cut it, said Brian. So Penelope did. I'm glad that's over, said the train. Zebedee arrived. All well, because it's time for bed. Good night, said Florence. Dougal looked at his kilt. They'll never believe me in Dundee. Voyage d'affaires. Mr. Rusty told Florence that he'd been thinking. That's a long time since I went on holiday. Were you thinking of going now, then? Yes, I can't think where to go, that's all. We'll ask Zebedee, he's good at holidays. I heard that, said Zebedee. Go and see Dougal. He's best at holidays. You know, said Mr. Rusty, I'm not too sure about the wisdom of this. But look, hello, Dougal, said Florence. Welcome to the Dougal Travel Service. Holidays arranged, satisfaction guaranteed. Brian helping, said Florence. I certainly am. I work out the best way to go with my map and my powerful brain. Wolverhampton. Wolverhampton, said Florence. Lovely place. I'm not sure that's where I want to go, said Mr. Rusty. I can see we're going to have difficulty with this client, said Brian. He doesn't want to go to Wolverhampton. That poses a problem. I don't want to be difficult. They all say that. And Dougal explained that everything had been prepared for the Wolverhampton tour. The special luggage was all ready, for instance. And the tropical kit, said Brian. It gets very hot in Wolverhampton, especially if you keep your vest on. Well, I don't want to be difficult, but I don't want to go. How about Stoke-on-Trent, said Brian. How about abroad, said Florence. Abroad? Ooh, that's tricky. You don't want to go abroad, said Dougal. All those foreigners milling about as though they owned the place. Really, Dougal, said Florence. Well, what's wrong with Britain? I could offer you the Grand Canal, Manchester, the Doge's Palace, Dundee, or the Leaning Tower of West Ham, said Brian. But Florence and Mr. Rusty weren't interested. We'll have to think of something else, said Brian. Florence apologized for being difficult. That's all right, said Dougal. We really wanted to go somewhere exotic. More exotic than Wolverhampton, said Dougal. Brian fetched more travel books while they prepared for an exotic holiday. What about China? Said Florence. Brian and Dougal went quite pale. China, said Florence. China, said Mr. Rusty. The very place, said Florence. But Brian and Dougal weren't too sure. Can you arrange it at once? Said Florence and Mr. Rusty. Quite sure you wouldn't prefer the hanging gardens of Leeds? Said Dougal slowly. And Mr. Rusty and Florence said they were absolutely positive. China or nothing. Dougal consulted Brian. How do we get them to China? Bicycle? That is a soppy suggestion. It would take hours. And anyway, what are they going to say in Wolverhampton? Not at home to snails. Zebedee brought Florence a letter from Dougal. From Dougal? From Dougal. So Florence read the letter. Dear Florence, I have installed a bell at my front door. If you wish to call on me, will you please give 3 short rings and 1 long ring? Tell Zebedee that if he calls, he should give 3 long rings and 1 short ring. Yours, Dougal. I'll never remember, said Zebedee. It's a bit complicated, isn't it? Said Florence. But they decided to go and see. Unfortunately, on the way, Florence lost the instructions about Dougal's bell, and she couldn't remember whether to knock or ring. Oh dear! Dougal, meanwhile, was at home, quiet and peaceful. Hello, Dougal, old matey, said Brian. Did you ring? No, I said hello to... I heard you, but I didn't hear you ring. Ting-a-ling-a-ling? Dougal decided that he'd better show Brian the bell, so he did. Can I have a go? Said Brian. No, you may not have a go. If you want to see me, you will ring the bell once. Understand? Once. What will happen then? I shall say, come in. Now, what happens if you're not in? Then I won't say anything, will I? Well, no, you couldn't say anything if you weren't in. Dougal gave Brian a withering look and withdrew, leaving Brian alone with the bell. The bell rang. I shall do that snail an injury one day. I won't answer. Brian rang again. Funny, Dougal said if I rang once, he'd say, come in. I'll try again. He must be in because I saw him go in. A funny fellow. Hello, Brian, said Florence. Going to see Dougal? Yes, but he's not in. How do you know? I rang the bell, look. I shall keep my temper, said Dougal. That snail can ring all day. I am not into snails. Brian and Florence wondered where Dougal could be. He can't be in, said Florence. No, he can't be. Shall we, ring the bell a lot? What idea. So they played a duet on the bell, which made Dougal wish he wasn't in. I shall go mad. Meanwhile, back at the bell, Zebedee wanted to know what was going on, so Brian and Florence told him about Dougal and the bell, and Dougal not being in and everything. So Zebedee decided to try the bell too. 3 long rings and 1 short ring. Come in, come in, come in, come in. So they all came in. Did you ring? Zebedee did, said Brian. I heard him. We thought you were out, said Florence. Yes, we thought you were out. But you're in, said Florence. In bed, said Zebedee. All work and no play. Zebedee asked Florence what she was going to do, and Florence told him she was going to the garden, and she was going to make a necklace with some beads she had in her bag. Dougal will help me. Are you sure? Said Zebedee. He doesn't like work. It's not work, it's pleasure. Dougal won't think so. But Florence waited for Dougal, determined he would help her. I'll ask him nicely, she thought. Good morning, Dougal, you're just in time. In time for what? To help me with my work. Work? You'll enjoy it. That'll be the day. I've just remembered, I've got to see a dog about a man. And he escaped. What an escape. Work. Me? Then he met Brian. Just in time, Comrade Dougal. What can you mean? To help me, what are my lettuces? You're a funny little thing. So I've been told. I'd like to help, little mollusk, but we dogs have to conserve our strength, you know. Oh, I know. And Dougal escaped again. Everybody's working, thought Dougal, amazed. And then he met Mr. McHenry. Excuse me, you're not working, are you? No, I'm playing. Really, how sensible. I'm playing at blowing up tires. Dougal thought about it. Can I have a go? Certainly, said Mr. McHenry. You blow and blow until the tire is quite hard. It's fun. Is it? Oh, yes, but you mustn't stop. If you stop, it spoils the fun. And he left, laughing for some reason. I mustn't stop, mumbled Dougal. Mustn't spoil the fun. This is better than working. Florence wondered how Dougal was getting on. How's Dougal getting on? She asked, and Mr. McHenry told her. I must go and see. What fun, said Dougal, panting rather hard. Dougal, you are working hard. I'm not working, I'm playing. And Florence had a little giggle. Want to have a go? Said Dougal. I don't think so, thank you. Is Dougal working? Said Zebedee. Yes, said Florence. He's helping Mr. McHenry blow up his tire. How kind. I've been tricked, thought Dougal. But remember, Dougal, said Florence, that all play and no work makes Dougal a dull dog. Well said, said Zebedee. Bed. The Nutcrackers. Florence told Zebedee she was going to pick some nuts in the garden. And Dougal says he will lend me his nutcrackers. You'd better go then, hadn't you? Said Zebedee. Where are they? What you lost, Dougal, old haggis? Said Brian. My nutcrackers. Going to crack some nuts? Oh, no, I'm going fishing. With nutcrackers? Give me strength. Did you know you got a mackerel on your head? Said Brian, innocently. I hope Dougal brings the nutcrackers soon, thought Florence. And she asked Mr. McHenry if he liked nuts, and Mr. McHenry said he doted on nuts, and Florence said he should have one when Dougal came with the nutcrackers. Dougal, I'll get my nutcrackers, said Mr. McHenry, and he went, leaving Florence nutting happily. Dougal hadn't been able to find his nutcrackers, so he and Brian thought they would make some. Can't be difficult. Have a go, said Brian. Meanwhile, lucky for Florence, Mr. McHenry had found his nutcrackers, and they worked very well. "Don't they look good?" said Florence. And she offered one to Mr. McHenry, but Mr. McHenry was too interested in his nutcrackers to eat nuts. So Florence said she would go and find Dougal and his nutcrackers. "Goodbye, then," said Mr. McHenry. Dougal and Brian hadn't much success with making nutcrackers. "I'm a bit discouraged." "I can imagine," said Brian. "They should be easy to make. Perhaps we should go to night school, back to the drawing board. You can get into day school." "Dougal," said Florence, arriving, "you're wounded." "Oh, it's nothing. Nothing." "Brian, you too?" "Yes, and it hurts like anything." "What have you been up to?" "Nutcrackers," said Dougal. "Yes, nutcrackers. We tried to make some." "Yes." "But Mr. McHenry cracked the nuts for me with his machine," said Florence. "That makes me feel much better." So Florence gave them both some nuts to make them feel better. "Don't eat nuts in bed," said Zebedee. Brian, cushion killer. Florence found Zebedee having a little sleep, which was unusual, and she told him she was going to see Dougal, which wasn't unusual. "I'm going to give him that cushion for his bed." "I can testify to its comfort," said Zebedee. "Oh, good," said Florence. So Florence looked for Dougal to give him the cushion. "He's still in bed, I expect." But Florence was wrong. Dougal was humming as he made his bed. "Hello, Dougal." "Ah, it gave me quite a ton." When Dougal recovered, Florence gave him his cushion. "Oh, you shouldn't have. How can I? Oh, it's just what I wanted. I'm glad you like it." "Can I try it?" "But you've only just got up. I think you should take a run first." "Run? Run? I'm not a greyhound, you know. I can see that." And they both walked out into the garden. Brian was looking for Dougal, and he found the cushion. "What have we here? A scattered cushion? Oh, dropped perhaps from some passing carriage. What's this? Feathers? Can some poor feathered friend be trapped in there? Hello, inside. Don't worry, Brian is here." Brian muttered and hummed as he emptied the cushion. "It must be awful in there. It must be very small." Meanwhile, in another part of the garden, Dougal had decided he'd had enough exercise for one day. Shall we wander back?" "So you can sit on your cushion, I suppose," said Florence. "I might." Brian had decided that the feathers had been lost by some bird. Must be a bit cold by now. Just then, Dougal and Florence arrived. "Have you seen a very cold bird?" said Brian. "My cushion. What, you cushion killer." "Oh dear," said Florence. "I thought a bird had lost its feathers." "No, it was Dougal's feather cushion." I've made a slight error then." "I wish I had a cushion stuffed with snails. I'm sure Brian did it for the best." "Someone molting," said Zebedee. So Florence told him all about it. "I notice that snail has sneaked off," said Dougal. So Zebedee decided, as he often did, to do a little magic for the sake of peace. "I can't thank you enough," said Dougal, sitting down on his re-feathered cushion. "Feather cushions are so sympathetic." "Sleep well, Dougal," said Florence. "Sleep soft, Florence," said Zebedee. The Smoking Volcano. Florence told Zebedee she was wondering how Dougal and Brian were getting on. "Go and see," said Zebedee. "Yes, I will," said Florence. And Zebedee made sure she arrived safely. Brian and Dougal were having a chat about smoking. "It's a disgusting habit," said Dougal, coughing. "It'll stunt your growth. Got a cough, Dougal, old son? Why don't you smoke indoors?" "I am indoors." And Dougal got so angry he took the pipe away from Brian. and quite right too. Well, if you're going to be like that, said Brian, and he left. Now I've hurt his feelings, I suppose. Really, some people. And he went to find Florence. But out in the garden he found a volcano instead. Whatever next, a baby mountain smoking? It can't be. I must be seeing things. It can't be. But it was, and Dougal got just a little bit frightened. Help! Florence was wondering where Dougal could be, when he rushed in a state of great agitation. Women and children and dogs first. Whatever's the matter, Dougal? Make for the hills. Why? So Dougal told her about the volcano and how he was sure it was about to erupt. How do you know? It's smoking. Smoking? Smoking. Just then Mr. McHenry came along and Florence told him about the volcano. And it's smoking, hissed Dougal. Volcano? Said Mr. McHenry. Where? Dougal will show you, said Florence. No, I won't. But Mr. McHenry still went to see the volcano. Yes, volcano, all right. Stay here, won't be long. Stay here? Said Dougal. He must be mad. I will not allow myself to be covered in red-hot ashes. But Mr. McHenry came back with a fire extinguisher, and he went to the volcano and extinguished it. All's done. Fire's out. Goodbye. So Florence went to have a look, followed rather nervously by Dougal. That's a volcano, said Florence. Looks more like a cream cake. Appearances can be deceptive. And just then a very strange thing began to happen. It's erupting, said Dougal. But it wasn't erupting. It was Brian coming out. Good evening, all. Brian, said Florence, what are you doing in that volcano? It's not a volcano. It's where I go to smoke my pipe in peace. Said Dougal. I hope your tobacco got wet. And Florence had a laugh at the thought of Brian being put out by Mr. McHenry. What's been going on, then? Said Zebedee. You'll never believe it, said Florence, so I won't tell you.